All right, hello everyone. Let me see. I'm bringing up the screen so we can see all of us. Welcome to this workshop. It's one that I think many people experience possibly some stress or difficulties during the holiday season. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to do some of the things you may know, and I welcome comments, but some things that can be helpful in managing how we experience the holiday season. We can all have different things that go on during that time, and I imagine we don't want to feel miserable, right? And I'm not talking about doing things that are fake. I'm talking about doing things that can help us have a better experience, things that we can do to make it maybe better than we thought it could be. Okay, so here we go. So this workshop, let's see, I got to close that. I'm trying to, there we go. I'm trying to make it smaller so you can see just only me. Bear with me a second. Okay, this might be better. Okay, so this workshop will focus on how you can manage your expectations and your perspective during the holiday season. Um, there's lots of things that can make a holiday season difficult. Whatever holidays you celebrate or don't celebrate at this time of year, there's several and lots of different ones. But this is one of those seasons that can be difficult for people, and we don't always talk about it, but it's not always great. It can be a really difficult time. So there's lots of things that can cause a problem. For example, there's triggers to things that happen or situations that can affect our mood and our enjoyment of the season. Some common ones are like the anniversary, unfortunately, of a death or a loss. That can be really hard during the holidays. A memory of a bad experience at one or more of the holidays. We have things that happen sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to remember the good times. We sometimes it comes right to our mind just the memory of something bad. Maybe current life stressors, including financial stress, right? Maybe a lot going on, maybe trying to meet expectations of others or trying to fit it all in. Being away from loved ones, maybe we don't live near them, or maybe we can't visit, or being alone, even that can be hard. Let's say there's unfortunately a breach in the family. It also can be other family member behavior that affects us, like, oh, I want to be with my family, but I don't want to be with this person because they always cause this problem or overstep a boundary or something. Then there's expectations, things we think societal expectations, other family member expectations of how things will be, who will do what, how it should be. And there's actually our own expectations that affect our mood and how we feel. Our own expectations of others, our hopes and dreams. We're not wrong to have those expectations, but sometimes they can interfere with how we experience the holiday. Does any of that make sense, or does this kind of resonate with some of you? I'm guessing that for many people it might. Okay. So as you're thinking about this, if you identify with one or more of those, or your own reason for potentially having a less enjoyable holiday season than you would like, and maybe affects your mood or how you experience it. Some people just want to wish the holiday season away. So once you identify that this might be an issue for you, well, what can you do? So I like to go forth and discuss how we can proactively, how we can act rather than be acted upon to prepare for some triggers we're likely to have and identify what's in our control or what we can change. Because as we know, there's a lot that we can't control, a lot that is not in our power. So it's really important to identify what we can do, what is in our control, what we have the ability to influence or change. We'll also talk a little bit about examining our expectations, setting clear boundaries if needed, and allowing ourselves to take care of ourselves. Before I go forward into more details, are there any comments or questions so far? I don't have everything. I'll go ahead and move forward. Okay. All right. For situations that are out of our control or ability to change, like, for example, unfortunately, a death or some other loss, first finding some support, any support can be really helpful. And it's one of the things that can help us toward a path towards eventual, it's a process, acceptance, and that can help mitigate some of our distress. I mean, obviously we're still going to think of our loved one. We're still going to probably have lots of feelings that come up. So when we say acceptance, we're definitely not talking about pretending. We're not talking about stuffing down our feelings. But we also don't want to go down a spiral where we're constantly dwelling. It's acknowledging, it's accepting, and finding ways to be supported and to we'll talk a little bit more about acceptance, what that means and doesn't mean shortly, but it can help with some of the distress we feel. Okay, so during any grief process, we're not going to get into a lot of detail here, but if you're grieving anything like what might have been, what should have been, these are things we grieve, but we wish would be. These are things we grieve, not just the loss of a person. And so it's understandable if we feel that way. Like, I wish my family was like this. I wish we did that. I wish my experience was like this. So if we realize we're feeling that way, it's okay to acknowledge it and say, have a little bit of compassion for yourself. Not like, I shouldn't feel that way. I shouldn't, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. And so if you have some feelings, instead of stuffing them down, you can let them out. Some people do things like they write things down, they talk to someone, they cry, they do different things to express how they feel. And that's helpful. We actually do have a recent workshop that was done by one of my colleagues. It's a really good webinar that we just had on grief, the dance of loss. You would be able to find it on YouTube on our Blomquist Hell page. So if any of you are interested in that. Let's see, it looks like in the chat we have a couple of things. Let's see here. All right, it looks like, yeah, let's see here. Any other questions so far? Okay, thank you for one of the comments. Yes, about one of our webinars. Thank you. Okay, so some of the things you may already do, like if you have a great idea, you're welcome to share it either by verbalizing it or on chat. But one of the things we can do is honor our loved one. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting you do something that's too painful for you. You don't have to expect yourself to, that's where you have the self-compassion. You don't have to expect yourself to be happy, rah, rah, I'm excited. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, do we have to be miserable? We can express our grief. And then maybe we can identify something that can mitigate maybe at least some of that grief. For example, honoring your loved one. Maybe you'll carry on a tradition they did. If that's too hard, you can come up with a new tradition that you enjoy, even if it's a small thing, something that honors them, or something that helps you. It's okay to do that. One of the things that sometimes when people think, when they're going wherever they're at in the grief process, they think, oh, I can't be happy. I can't have happiness. And we want to say you absolutely can. Does it mean you don't want your loved one back? Does it mean you aren't terribly sad? Of course you are. Of course you wish that. That is not mitigated in any way by allowing ourselves times when we laugh or smile or do something we enjoy. Our loved ones usually would like us to have those times. So allowing yourself to do things like that would be really important. Okay, so with situations that are out of, let me see here. Let me get to the next one. Let's see if it'll let me do it. Okay. All right, here we go. Sorry, I had a little problem with the webinar there for a second. Let me see. Oh, I love that. Exactly. One of our participants had a really great idea. I love that. It's a wonderful idea. Okay. Any other ideas? You're welcome to share them or put them on chat. All right. There is also another support I'd like to share before we move on from the grief part of how we experience the holidays. For example, some people are not interested in grief support groups. They're just not. They don't want to sit around either virtually or in person sharing our problems with other people. That's totally fine. The reason I'm sharing Caring Connections, in case you have some interest, here's why. Caring Connections is a little different. Their expertise in how to help people through grief. The doctor that runs it, everyone, that's her expertise. It's not just a group where people sit around. They have the advantages. They run these groups all year long. They run like I guess 5 or 6, and then start a new one. And they're you can participate there or you can participate virtually. They have very specific ones like loss of a spouse, loss of a parent, loss of a, so they have a family member. So there are specific groups. You're welcome to go. You can just type in Caring Connections and you'll find the support groups and when they start. You can even contact them with questions. And let's say you're not interested in a support group. They do have, well, let's see. Before I get to that, looks like we have another. Yeah, sometimes people stop traditions. Like if someone's gone, there's some people that no longer carry on certain things, the person that used to do things. It's okay for us to bring it up again if we can. I don't know if you'll get pushback, but I think it's okay to say, you know what, I want to continue this tradition. Sometimes people just don't do it, but you are welcome to bring it back up. A good idea. So anyway, they last night actually they had Caring Connections has an annual event. They actually put on an annual event that's a hope and comfort and grief program. They do a grief in the holidays event every single year. They have a different theme, I think, every year. Well, they held it last night, so obviously it wasn't going to be in time of this uh, workshop. And obviously, if you watch this workshop in future, this on our webinar on our Blomquist page, but they do it annually I believe in November. But I asked them, and like the one that was last night, they had a speaker who lost her husband. They also have a musical performance. So it's for people who understand, people that get together and gather and support each other. So you may not be interested in a group, but you might be interested in that. Let's say you don't want to grieve in person. Let's say you don't want to you want to feel connected, but you don't want to be in a group. They said that they have a recording up. So in about a week, if you go to Caring Connections and look under events, you should be able to see the recording of this program. So any other thoughts or questions before we move from dealing with something that unfortunately it's a club we don't want to belong to, but the club of grieving. Before we move on, any other thoughts or questions? Okay. Let's see here. Okay, let's see if it's letting me do this. Are we ready? Here we go. All right, the dreaded financial stressors. Unless you're rich, who doesn't have financial stress? Now, some people have financial stress of being in debt, and some people it's just they can pay their bills, but there's so many expectations of ourselves and others during the holidays. If some people have children, some people don't. But if you have children, oh, I need to get a gift for this person, or even a coworker or a friend or family members, and I don't have the money. How am I going to pay this? That stress can really diminish your happiness during the holiday season. So what do we do about it? Oh yeah, that's true. If you have teens at all, you're going to have financial. There's always going to be something that's needed, right? Exactly. So what do we do? You may or may not know about it, but there's some agencies in the community that aren't there out there to make a buck. We can't obviously vouch for them, but we've recently made a list of local providers who are out there to help people. So if you're stressed due to being in debt, there are community resources to help. Even if it doesn't solve it right away, taking some action to lessen your stress, increase your hope by starting on a plan toward debt relief. They actually have agencies that's specifically what they do. So we have a list of those local providers. You're welcome to call us about this should you have any interest in that. So just know that's available. Now let's talk about expectations. Who doesn't want to buy their family the world or someone the world or their partner or someone? I just want to get them that expensive thing. They want that so much. And they may have some disappointments. There may be someone that want that. And it can feel bad when we don't feel like we can get them the thing they want. It's not fun, but does it have to ruin the holiday? Do they really need that expensive gift? Can people put a pot towards one gift? Can we get a gift for each other, just one gift? Can we make gifts? Like get creative. Maybe our gifts to each other are an experience, or writing things down that we love about each other, or doing something secret for them, a secret Santa or a secret activity for them. Do something for them that you know they'd like. There are some free activities in the community, a lot during the summer, but also during the holiday season. For example, the Delta Center, I think tomorrow they have a free carol sing along if that's the season, if Christmas is what you celebrate. There are, for those who celebrate different holidays, you can look online, like for Kwanzaa, to see if there's any current activities. Salt Lake, believe it or not, County, they do have some things that are available in the community. Some free activities, singing, things to take your kids to. Um, does anybody else have any other things they know of that are free in the community? But if you do, please feel free to put it in the chat. Oh, tree lighting ceremony. That's right. That's a great one. And back to what someone said, where it's a family group where nobody talks about money, and obviously in the family, more going back to that part, some have more money than others, and there's expectations. We do know that some of our family members expect more than others, but sometimes we just don't have it. And it's okay to think, you know what? I don't. And rather than be miserable or meet their expectations, we're like, you know what? We're going to do it our way. We're going to find another way to celebrate. We're going to find another way that we can do things together, gift each other in a different way. Um, so, yeah, I acknowledge that there can be those problems. Let's see, here's some other ideas. Going for the streets for holiday lights, neighborhoods to look at lights. If someone celebrates, for example, Hanukkah and other holidays, they can maybe look, we have some local centers here, maybe they have some experiences people can attend, or Kwanzaa or other activities that might be in the community. I know that Salt Lake does have some, and I'm sorry I don't have all of them listed, but there are some ones. Oh, sledding. Remember when we had that snow a couple of years ago? And some people just sledded at Sugar House Park. Do-it-yourself gifts, food gifts, crochet. There's lots of different activities. And if someone doesn't like that, you know what? That's on them. It was given with love. So we're not bad because we don't have a ton of money. That's societal marketing. Who says we have to do all that commercial stuff, right? Thanks for a lot of these ideas. Really appreciate them, and I hope they're helpful to others. Any other thoughts before we move on? Oh, here we go. Cache Valley has an interfaith feast. Love it. I love that. I think that's a great idea. Okay. All right. Next, let's see. All right. Just because of time, we're going to move forward. Okay, now let's look more what is related to the upcoming holiday season is in our ability to control, influence, or change. There's a lot that's not. Um, so we recommend examining our expectations of others. Now, sometimes these are reasonable expectations, like a partner remembering the holiday, right? Or we have expectations of family. And it's not that they're necessarily unreasonable. Now, some of them are unreasonable or they're unspoken. How is the family member supposed to know? But others, even if they are, they may or may not happen. And that can be disappointing and that can really affect our mood. But let's examine something that maybe we can do. Let's see, is there any other? Let's see, okay. For example, assumptions. We all are going to have assumptions. We're human. But let's say family members or a loved one or other people have assumptions of us uh, or how things need to be or must be. And sometimes they may not like to push back, but I think it's important to examine. Do I hold myself to a standard that's unreasonable? I have to do this. I must do this. We have to have this many people. We have to even have a party. Maybe we don't want to have a family party. Or I have to send out 30 greeting cards. Now, some people love to do that. That's their way to show love. Let's say they don't have gift, but sending a greeting card, that's excellent. I love that, whether it's online or whether it's through the mail. That's a wonderful thing to do. But to feel like you have to, just because you've done it before, it's okay to give yourself permission to say, you know what, not this year. I'm not going to do that this year. I don't have to do that this year, and I'm not bad for choosing not to this year. I have too many things on my plate. Maybe this year, I'll look at it again next year, but this year I'm going to choose not to. So really, when you make examining your assumptions, maybe right now you can think of what are your or even after our seminar, can look at maybe what are your expectations of yourself or others. So for others, if they're reasonable, it's okay to speak up and people will choose or not choose to do them. And it may be disappointing if they don't. If we expect or hope something from someone and we don't verbalize it, that's one thing. But if it's something that we always hope for, but it rarely happens, I think we're setting ourselves up if we expect it again. I'm not saying resigning ourselves. We'll get to how to manage acceptance. We'll get to that. But it's just like not expecting something that's unrealistic or that they're not likely to do. And then expectations of yourself. If we choose to do something, like, you know what, I choose to do this, I want to do this. This is something, even though my busy schedule, that I choose to do. Just that change in words really is important. You just think how you feel. Feel how your body feels when you say, "Oh, I have to this," right? Versus, "I mean, I just don't mean I like, but I choose to do it, and this is why I choose to do it." Do you see how even that can make a difference? Yeah. And then there's no thought that comes in. I just want to get to the selfish versus self-care. All right. And we're talking about people in our sphere. Like we don't have to be responsible for everybody. But let's say in your own family group or people who are dependent or okay. There's a difference between selfish and self-care. Do I have to do everything? No. If they don't get every gift, no. If I don't have the house completely clean, if we don't have 10 dishes for a meal, if we don't go to every activity, but we are falling apart. We're not getting to sleep. Our health is bad. Self-care is not selfish. Here's how someone came up with a really good idea about how to tell the difference. Just for again, the loved ones that you're responsible for, let's say. Selfish is choosing my wants over the needs of people that I'm responsible for, that I need to do. Now, sometimes we can have someone else meet the needs. We don't have to meet all the needs, but the ones that only I can do. Selfish is taking care of my wants instead of their needs that I can do if I'm able. Self care is taking care of my needs rather than their wants. It's okay. And if even if you have to schedule a half hour, an hour, to allow yourself to have self-care. You're going to, we're not going to be good to people if we fall apart. I often use the airplane analogy. When you go on a flight, if you've ever been on a flight, and let's say you have uh, children or dependents with you or an elderly person with you, they always give the safety instructions, right? What is one of the things they always say when you talk about the oxygen mask? Who do they say to put it on first? They don't say put it on your child first. They say put it on yourself first. Does that seem strange? That can seem strange. Like, wait a minute. But if you pass out, you're not going to be able to help your child. So that's why they say to put it on yourself first. Exactly. Exactly. So self-care is not selfish. So maybe I encourage you to, I like that idea. I once did a bunch of small gifts and wraps, but I love that because it's so fun to open gifts, right? Um, so I hope I've made that point without pushing it too hard. If you start feeling bad and you're getting stressed and upset, please run it by that meter, examine it. Do I have to do this or choose to? Can I let something go? Is this selfish or self-care? Or do I need some help doing some of the things? Sometimes we don't want to let someone else help, you know. Okay. So, because you can decrease some of your distress during the holidays by managing your expectations and setting some boundaries. It's hard to set boundaries. Sometimes you might get pushback. You may not like conflict. It doesn't have to be conflict. Just coming up with a way to say, yeah, I'd like to do that this year, but I can't do that this year. Just setting some boundaries and taking care of yourself. Okay, we're going to move on to the next step. Then let's see here. All right, this one is hard. Being alone or being away from loved ones. That's hard. Sometimes we don't live near them. Sometimes maybe there's a breach in the family. Maybe, again, someone has passed, or maybe for some reason, financial reason, we can't afford that flight. We know how expensive they are now. And we're alone. We're not. And some people are single or in the middle of a process where they just aren't with others during the holiday season. And that can be really hard. And so we don't have to pretend. There's a difference. I like to look at it as a spectrum. Over here is fake, la, 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 it's not happening. We're taking all the energy to stuff it down. That's not helpful. Or just going down the spiral. Oh, it's bad, it's terrible, it'll never be better. We're human to have those feelings. But we recommend more in the middle, where you acknowledge your feelings, even express them, but then don't get stuck and dwell in them too long. It's okay to let out your feelings, but you can tell when they're going down the spiral, right? We want to interrupt that spiral and acknowledge the difficulty and then say, okay, what can I do? I'm not happy. I'm not as excited about this. I am lonely. I am sad. So I'm going to do something so I'm not as sad or as lonely. Actually do something. Maybe we don't have a lot of energy. We can do some things. For example, there's other ways to feel connection and meaning. It may not be our ideal, but there's some things we can do. For example, some people do a video gathering with their family or loved ones. For example, this holiday, there's some family. I'm like, we're going to do a video gathering. Is it my preferred? No, but we're going to do that. Some people in a lot of cities, they have the giving machines, like vending machines, but you get to go and put a little bit in. They give you a ton of options throughout the world and locally that you can donate. It's a fun activity to go do. I think here in our area, I think they have one down in the Utah County as well. I don't know if they have one up north, but I know in Salt Lake County they usually have it in City Creek. They should be announcing it in the news soon where they'll be located. Those are fun to do. Another one is, the things that you would normally do if you have even a little energy to make yourself feel good, the coping skills we use, for example, any kind of physical activity that can help lift your mood, going outside, even if you have to bundle yourself up. Sensory soothers, listening to music, watching that thing that always makes you laugh. distracting activities, talking to someone, taking a walk, doing something, making something, petting animals. There's lots of things you can do to affect your mood instead of sitting in it. Oh, it looks like Ogden will be getting one this year, one of the giving machines. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Thank you for that information. That'll be great. Okay. Let's see. Um, Sometimes we can't afford a trip, but who wants to take a trip alone? Sometimes we like it, but some people don't like to do it. I know there's some travel groups out there for single people. They have lots of options for people. Maybe you don't even have to go too far, but there's always somewhere you want to do an excursion. People can just do an excursion. If you have the option to take a trip, and you've always been denying yourself to either take a trip or do something you've always wanted to do, if it's at all possible, why not allow yourself so you can have, even in a difficult holiday season, something enjoyable? I want to say something important, like when we have bad memories associated with a season, of course we want to avoid it. But if that's our only memory association with it, we're probably always going to not like it. So therefore, if we add positive memories to it, we're going to still always remember probably something bad that happened or the loved one we miss, right? But we also remember, oh, and also we did this last year and I enjoyed it. So it balances out a little bit more over time. This was hard, and doing this thing helped me get through it. Does that make sense? We can affect, without being in denial, we can affect how we experience the season. I'm really sad about this, and I'm going to do this, or I did this, and that helped a little bit. Does that make sense? Looks like we got another comment here. Oh, I love that. Making your own traditions. I mean, again, it may not be our ideal, but it can still be better than feeling miserable, right? I'm so glad someone has found their own traditions. There's definitely things you can do. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see here. Let me give an example so that it doesn't, normally we wouldn't share something personal because I don't want you to feel like I'm putting it on me, taking it on me. Oh, here's my life. I'm sharing this for your benefit. Several years ago, I had a Thanksgiving Day season where I was alone for whatever reason, family member things, it just wasn't working out to be with people. I had friends, I had a good life, but they were busy with their family and I couldn't be with mine. And I found that I was going to be alone for Thanksgiving Day. And I felt really sad about that. And I was feeling really lonely. And I said, wait a minute, wait. For some reason, I'm so grateful I had a brainstorm. Wait a minute. Now, maybe it was a suggestion from someone I don't remember. I thought, wait a minute. I bet there's other people that are alone as well, right? And it's not like I'm a big extrovert. It may seem like it. I'm not. But I didn't want to feel miserable. I mean, sure, there were plenty of things I could do. I could read, I could watch shows, I could take a walk, but I wanted some connection. So I had some acquaintances and I canvassed all my acquaintance group and found that there were several alone. Guess what? You know what we did? We all got together and we had a meal and we had a great time. So that's my example. Anybody else have any thoughts or examples they either want to verbalize or put in the chat?
I actually have one.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh, I work in technology, obviously,
Uh-huh.
but I am kind of from the older generations. So when I came to Texas to start working
Uh-huh.
for another company, most of my friends invited me for many things because my kids are with their mom in North Carolina, so they
Uh-huh.
invited me. But all of them are from a different generation.
Uh-huh.
So I always went there because, you always think you have the expectations that you shouldn't spend holidays alone.
Right.
So I went to all of them, but I realized in meetings with people that, although they are very nice, I don't share that much with them.
Yeah.
My younger kid is 21. Most of them
Uh-huh.
had kids 3 years old, 5 years
Uh,
old. They were very young and very active. I was the guy in the corner sitting, I realized that what was hurting me was the expectation of you shouldn't be alone. You know what? Sometimes it's
Yes.
okay to be alone. Like, don't fall into the social expectation of what holiday could be. I have learned a little to celebrate myself during those holidays. Like,
Yeah.
not all the time I have to go to all the things that people
Right.
invite me. Sometimes it's okay to dedicate that day to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Again, that's a perfect example of the expectations I was talking about, but I didn't really emphasize. Sometimes it's okay to be alone. Sometimes sure, would we rather be with our group? Sure, but it's okay to be alone. Read that book you wanted to read, play that game you wanted to play, learn that hobby or activity you've wanted to do, sleep. You know, there are things we can do, and it's okay to be alone. We don't have to be with people, you know? I love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Let's see here. We're wrapping this up. We got a couple things we're going to share. Okay, I can't help but bring in the opportunities to volunteer service. Now, I love there are, doesn't it? Now, there's a lot more opportunities during the holiday season. There are lots of other times. Sometimes we don't have the time. Sometimes at different seasons of the year, there's different things. We don't know how to help. We can look in our neighborhood. We can see who needs some support. Let's say we don't know any. There is an organization called justserve.org. Let me go back to that. In most communities, if you go online at justserve.org and you put in your zip code, they're going to show you at any given time tons of options that are available. Some people want to do something privately. They want to do it in person. They don't want to do it in person. They can do it in remote. Let's say they want to do it for a while. Let's say, hey, I don't want to commit myself to something for a long time. Oh, I see something I can do just once. Oh, I don't like that one, but I like this one. They have so many options. So that's one option for looking, or you can look around your neighborhood, anything for ways to serve others. Because there's lots of evidence that volunteering, even if it's just once, it can be fulfilling and it can be uplifting. But even if you don't feel yourself uplifted, at the minimum, it puts our troubles in perspective. It's not, again, I want to be careful to say we don't need to feel bad for acknowledging we have troubles, but it puts them in perspective and it also can take our mind off them. So even to take your mind off your troubles for a while, any opportunity to serve that you find that works for you, there's lots out there. It's wonderful. And I recommend that. Anyone have any example of uh, some option of service that they know locally that really helped them? You're welcome to share. There's plenty out there. In fact, and that does help most people feel good. Okay. Okay. I'll move on then as we're wrapping up. Remember, I said I'd get to talking about acceptance. We have this phrase in psychology called radical acceptance. I know that might be kind of weird. Now, how is that different than just resigning ourselves? Oh, it's going to be a terrible time, and I just might as well accept that it's going to be terrible. It may be hard, but it doesn't have to be terrible. That's resigning ourselves, right? Well, let's challenge our perception. Like, I'm going to give a great example about you can be alone. It's okay if you don't feel comfortable in this group. I'm going to be alone, right? And I'll get through it, and I'll be okay, and I'll do something I enjoy, right? It's not forever, right? But radical acceptance, how is that different? Um, Thank you for that example, by the way, for Just Search. But how is that different? Radical acceptance is the concept of I don't like it or I don't agree with it, but I've come for my own peace of mind to accept that something is as it is. It is what it is. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it or like it, but I accept that it is what it is. And I do that for my own peace of mind. Maybe the season isn't how I want it. It isn't what I wanted. It isn't how I wanted to do it. It is what it is. I'm going to make the best of it. How we think and believe really, absolutely, there's tons of scientific evidence. Cognitive behavioral therapy is definitely balanced on how we think. It's not just our situation that affects us, because of course, but how we think absolutely affects how we feel. So if we can examine some of our perceptions and expectations and see if we can come to some radical acceptance. And sometimes we think it's going to be that way forever, or the worst case scenario. Well, a lot of times the worst case, it can happen, but most of the time it doesn't. And if you think back to hard things you've gone through, you did get through it. I'm not saying it was easy. I'm not minimizing the pain. It's just being more realistic with it, right? Give yourself a little bit of compassion again. Okay, so going to move on to to wrap this up. Okay, so any other ideas or thoughts or even takeaways from today's workshop that you would like to share? That could be helpful to you, have been helpful to you, or be helpful to others, or something that you found when you had a
New
hard time.
ideas ranking?
Go ahead. Go
Heck,
ahead.
that seems crazy. Or not. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's definitely hard when you're grieving. It's really hard when you're grieving, and so we want to make sure that people get the support that they need. Did I understand everything your comment was on that? Okay. Well, here's why we want to conclude with this. So hopefully you took away something from this or some idea that's helpful to you to make your holiday season a little better than you might have thought it could be. Things we can do. However, if you find yourself falling into depression or you find it difficult to get out of a spiral, just want you to know you're welcome to contact us. Um, and we are happy to meet with you. Remember, our services are confidential and at no cost to you. And thank you for sharing your ideas. I love this. And I love these ideas. And hopefully that will help you have a much more rich and happy experience. And if it's not happy, please um, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to provide some support. Thank you for participating. Any other thoughts or other comments before we conclude?
Thank you for the presentation. It was good.
I appreciate that. I was trying to think of what could be helpful, and hopefully some of it was helpful.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone. This has been great. So I will send this recording out hopefully by the end of this week, but possibly Monday of next week. So just watch for that to come over. And I hope you guys have a good week.
All right.